Issue 179. We start out with Sonic telling Tails angrily that he has to stop his parents before they do something stupid. And Tails says that he's through listening to him, just because of one mistake. Well, maybe two. Sonic and Tails are holding hands. Is this really their idea of fighting? He's just trying to keep Tails from using his fist, but still. Sonic says, looking annoyed, that he doesn't like that his dad got locked up, and Tails doesn't believe him. He uses his tails to slam Sonic into the glass wall, saying, "You're not talking your way out of this one!" And again, I don't actually see his tails impacting Sonic. It looks more like he got hit by a yellow laser. Sonic tells Tails, "You're making it real hard for me to hold back, bud. I can understand wanting to help your family, but I'm not cool with you attacking me." And then Tails insists that he's had this coming for a long time, for just two things he did wrong. After Sonic asks what he ever did to him, Tails snaps at him. "That's my point exactly! You have no clue because you don't care, and I'm sick and tired of it." It's more like Sonic's selfish and oblivious, really. Seeing this makes it make all the more sense that Miles would resent Scourge so much. Just imagine how much worse the situation is with Sonic's evil twin. And Sonic spin dashes as he asks what he's sick and tired of. I have to wonder how his spines won't cut Tails like that. Tails tries and fails to hit him with his tails as the two both say that they aren't listening to each other. Then Tails says, refusing to try to communicate because communication skills are for smart people, that all he has to do is keep Sonic distracted so his parents can finish what they started. At least we kind of see his fist hitting Sonic this time, even if it's facing the wrong way for that, and his text box isn't really connected to him. Amadeus says he's more concerned about what a suspiciously easy time he's having as he presses some buttons at a door. So the citizens have a button code lock system, that makes sense. Does everyone have to memorize the freaking password just to get into their homes every day? I'd hate that. Rosemary says that since the rally was just this morning, maybe they haven't had the time to change the codes. Amadeus wonders if this is an invitation, as Ellie says to his concerned wife he doesn't think that Amadeus would be unreasonable, and this is all he can think of right now. Why would he think he could reason with them? Meg teases him with a amused smile that if he really thought he was reasonable, he wouldn't be locking his wife and baby in a secure room. What, is he worried Tails' father would hurt them? He kisses her on the forehead, the two showing actual chemistry for the first time as he tells her to go to the nursery now for his sake, saying a weird Neo Walkers forbid expression. How could there be new ancient walkers? He tells the concern to Nicole while standing in Orange Void because the artists were lazy to keep his family safe and avoid waking up his father, and she stutters in agreement. Amadeus then shows up saying that all of this is unnecessary. He says with his wife looking mad that his guards are absent and the locks are undone, so Elias obviously wants him there. It makes sense Amadeus would want a way out since he's tired of all the pressure of being a leader and being told what to do by the king. But something tells me a change in system isn't really going to make that problem go away. The king is still going to be pressuring him and stuff. Elias stands up to Tails' parents in favor of the royalty, saying there are dozens of heroes in the city who spent their childhoods fighting to protect the Acorn title. I cannot and will not belittle all that they have given for my family and my kingdom. That's a good point. Elias says angrily, I cannot just dissolve the kingdom and hand it to the angry masses. That makes no sense. That's an even better point. Those random people don't know how to run a country, and they'd have even less experience in it than Elias. The two of them get into a fight, and then we see Sonic spin-dashing Tails saying, if you won't pull any punches, then neither will I, sending him flying, except we don't actually see his spin dash hitting Tails, and somehow not cutting him with the sharp spines. Instead, we just see some blue light hitting him and sending him in a certain direction when it wasn't even heading in the right direction for that to make sense. After the criminals bet on who will win, Sonic takes the fight outside and Tails complains, this is how it always is. Sonic, the big hero, runs away and leaves me in the dust. Sonic then reasons, okay, so I left you behind on a lot of missions. You were too young for most of them. I didn't want you to get hurt. I don't see how his age would matter, although he was brain-dead stupid when he was really young, as the early comic issues showed. Remember when he tried to fly in and stop Robotnik all by himself? Then Tails says that's what he used to believe, but then I factored in all the times you teased me and made fun of me, and never believed me when I talked about my own adventures. When the hell did that happen? I don't think he did any of that once. I mean, he was surprised to see that the Tails miniseries was true at some point, but that's really it. And he punches Sonic in the cheek, leaving a mark, although again we don't actually see the fist hitting it, and instead there's just a yellow light to the left of it. If Tails was right, I'd understand him being mad, but he just comes off as paranoidly delusional because Sonic never did any of that bullying. Sonic says the lame excuse that he teases everybody, and he doesn't mean to hurt anyone's feelings, which totally makes it okay. The classic bully excuse. It reminds me of what I said about how he used to bully Tommy, and now he's a hero, ironically enough. It's so weird that someone who has a classic personality of an elementary school bully would end up being a hero. He spin dashes at a tree as Tails dodges, looking surprised, and says that he might mean to upset Shadow or Eggman, but even still, you don't see Antoine attacking me. That's because he's a coward. He's scared of getting his friends mad at him. He always was. He always knew they wouldn't side with him, and he'd just get in huge trouble. Not to mention lose the fight horribly. Also, I guess we're supposed to believe that he's just that forgiving, but considering how badly Antoine snapped at Sonic trying to get him exiled from Knot Hole at all costs, to the point of making a little girl cry in issue 40, I don't buy it. I don't buy that Antoine never snapped at him and attacked him for his pranks even once. Even once! Is he that much of a coward? As Tails kicks Sonic in the rear, while in silhouettes we don't actually see him land the hit, making it look like his foot is just glowing, he says that Amadeus is just trying to save the city. He technically is, since the king wants to arrest half the city for treason. Sonic then makes the excuse, he was in jail for a day, he didn't give me a chance to do anything. I don't blame Tails for not just assuming he would though. Tails tries to hit him with his tail, taunting angrily that Sonic wasn't quick enough, and Sonic points out, you're taking everything I've done to help you and skewing it. Since Tails talked about him leaving him behind to protect him as evil. But that's the only thing he's done to help him that Tails is skewing. He didn't try to keep his dad in prison to try to help him. Then Tails finally snaps, so he hooked up with Fiona to try to help me? And Sonic looks worried, not being mad at him at last, realizing what this was really all about. Wait, is she what this was all about? It does make sense that it would come to this, because while Tails did say he hated him for hooking up with Fiona, that was really it. He did a lot of bottling up to make it that way, so it makes sense that the stress would simmer under the surface and eventually boil over to a fight, finally expressing how he really felt in more than just one line. Tails keeps missing with his punches, looking teary-eyed while angrily calling him out on what he did, and then says, I thought you were my friend! I thought you were my brother! But everything I care about you take away from me! He means not only Fiona, but also the missions he wasn't allowed to go on. Those were kind of taken from him too. He's not really thinking straight though. He should know that Fiona wouldn't have dated someone so much younger than her anyways. It's creepy and illegal. No one ever told him that. Then Sonic says to humor him, okay Tails, that's what you think? Go to town on me. And Tails looks sad, holding his fist up, implying that hearing that compassionate line from Sonic reminded him of why he admired him in the first place. Then something comes out between Amadeus and Elliot from under the floor, and Nicole says amusingly with Sally all annoyed in front of her, forgive me, your majesty, I did not wake your parents. You said nothing but waking your sister, however. This is pretty funny, I giggle at this. It's really charming. Sally then deadpans, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised that my adventurer brother and the great conductor on the battlefield went straight to fighting. I giggled at that too, although battlefield is supposed to be one word. And we barely ever see her brother be an adventurer. She asks Elliot why he's holding on to power so tightly when he never really wanted to rule. He says basically that he's doing it for his father, who he didn't even know until a few years ago. The sergeant guy who raised him is more of a father to him, and he doesn't even talk to him anymore. Sally, really being the mediator I respect her character for, then asks Amadeus if the people actually wanted to come to a bloody coup. Sally then reminds everyone annoyed that she presided over a council making big decisions earlier, so their government doesn't have to be exclusively for or without royalty. Tails, not wanting to believe it and thinking he was acting wrong, says while crying, You're trying to trick me! Sonic says he was being honest, and wipes away a tear as he explains that he was hoping that if he hooked up with Fiona, Tails could finally move on. He then admits sadly with Tails no longer having his fists up that it was selfish of him, and he was still hurting for breaking things off with Sally. Technically she broke up with him, but whatever, he's arrogant and he doesn't want to admit it. Then he puts his hand on Tails' shoulder, kneeled to eye level, so he apologizes, I've been a jerk to you, man. I didn't mean it, but that doesn't change the fact that I was. I am truly sorry I hurt you, little bro. And people still think Archie Sonic is heartless. This is almost a tear-jerking moment. And I bet the hurt you has a double meaning there, because it means not only hurting him in the fight sense, but also in the Fiona sense. Tails actually thinks he needs to ask if he really meant that, and Sonic says, I'm not the lying type. Besides, I don't want you hitting me anymore. You've gotten pretty good at the butt-kicking thing. Wouldn't those last two sentences coming right after the first one only imply that he is just lying to humor him? He could have timed them better. Tails says with a smile, trying to look badass and failing, that Knuckles taught him a thing or two, and Sonic ruffles his hair, saying, "But next time you need to say something to me. Stop angsting it up like Shadow." Technically, he did say something to him, though. He was like, "I thought you were my friend! How could you, with all the foxes?" He pretty clearly told him how he felt earlier. They shake hands as Tails says he still wants to talk about things more, as if there's more to talk about, and they run away saying they have to stop Amadeus and the King from getting hurt. As we see Amadeus and Ellie's having a pleasant tea party with everything being fine, Sonic is all confused, saying, continue what you're doing, I guess? That made me giggle too. And Sally says they're coming to an agreement, as she's finally being 100% useful. It's hard to determine most of the time just how useful Sally is because she usually just gives out orders, and for all we know, her friends would have done what she would have told them to anyways, even if she wasn't there. It's much easier to understand how necessary it is for Sonic to smash a robot, while trying to picture a scenario without Sally accurately is kind of impossible, spinning into all sorts of what-if scenarios. But at least here, I can definitely say she was necessary. Amadeus explains they will have an elected council of 6 citizens, and Elias says that he will preside as the 7th member, losing some power to the people. More like all of it, considering he'll always be outvoted by resentful people conspiring against them. So they're having the monarchy still, but it's not absolute. I would have supported this a lot more if I wasn't familiar with a certain later issue showing just how much of a great idea the council is. Let's just say that obstructive and meddling bureaucrats doesn't even begin to describe it. I don't care about them having democracy if it just gets in the way of the heroes. The King resentfully wheels away, not saying a word out of disappointment, even though Elias is pointing out how happy the people are. And his mother gives him her full support. Sally points out that after all that, Amadeus didn't run for office. I don't think it would have been right. It would have made it look like he only did that to get power for himself. Tails says that Amadeus said he was the sword of the people, not the voice, and that's why Rosemary is running. Makes sense. Sonic asks Sally why she isn't running since she's not the heir to the throne, and she says the same reason he didn't. For some reason, Sonic agrees with her when there's no way the two are actually thinking the same thing with their personality differences. Sonic's reason is probably that he thinks being on the council would be too boring, and Sally's reason is probably that the people wouldn't be happy if there were 2 royal members, but it's supposed to be a council with only 1 in it. Then everyone is all panicked at seeing Dimitri's head floating in a bubble, asking all nonchalantly where Knuckles is. He warns them that Enerjack has returned. Huh? Without him? Did Finitevus make himself Enerjack? But he said he was going to remind the world of Dimitri's glory and persona. At least Dimitri's being helpful to the good guys, warning them about this, which makes a lot more sense than him going along with it. This issue is by Ian Flynn. The fight between Sonic and Tails was a refreshing concept and is much more acceptable to me now that I know the actual context behind the fight. I used to just take people's word for it that it was a dethroning moment to suck. Now I know it's not the worstest thing ever, and that this actually kind of makes sense. But the art was really disappointing. Sure, it was good superficially, but the fight was very unsatisfying because we never got to see any actual blows land. It was always just a lame light or something. And I get it, we're not supposed to find a fight between 2 best friends satisfying, but in action series, the fights need to have that kind of impact to be enjoyable to watch. And maybe we're supposed to side with Tails. He's clearly more in the right here. He starts out calling Sonic out on inexplicably not siding with him before saving his father, and then digs up some really old buried resentment about him being left behind on missions. But then he goes into full-on cuckoo territory, saying that Sonic always made fun of him. Since when? Since when was he that much of a bully to him? Although Sonic's response implies that it's in his nature to do that. Finally, Tails reveals his problem with Sonic was about him dating Fiona. He did say something about it though. A lot of things. But it was only in 1 issue, so it makes sense that he did some bottling up and all of it would explode out of him eventually. And it also makes sense that the thing that would finally get Tails to stop fighting with Sonic was Sonic showing compassion, saying that he can go to town on him because he deserved it. So really, this isn't a story about Tails betraying Sonic. It's the consequences of Sonic betraying Tails. Multiple times, without even thinking he did. It all makes perfect sense, and I really love the two angrily calling each other out on stuff for once. We need moments like this to make us really appreciate how close a friendship normally is by seeing what it'd be like otherwise. I just really wish the fight had better art though. All of the blows are so censored. Kind of defeats the purpose. And at the same time, it's revealed that the kingdom will have a democratic monarchy of elected council members now, with Elias being the only royal member. Sounds good in theory. Absolute monarchy is an absolute joke. They're not truly the bastion of freedom when you're just going from one dictatorship to another. The problem is, it's obvious that the good-natured on the heroes' side, Elias and other members, will just get overruled and outvoted by everyone else in the council as they conspire against the royalty. And more importantly, I have an idea of how unlikable this council is going to be later. As in, I wish they got roboticized bad. There was absolutely no reason for them to make a change like this. The writer had to come out of complete nowhere when things were working perfectly fine until the king lost his mind. Something that could have easily not been written. This is going to lead nowhere good, I can guarantee you that. Poor Sally. The most reasonable and competent authority figure for the heroes, and she just keeps losing power. When that's the main reason she's useful and her only purpose in the group. So it goes without saying this is bad news for her effectiveness.